So good afternoon, everybody. It's 2 p.m. So we will start the DCRB meeting. So welcome to everybody, members, officers, and members of the public who may be online. Agenda item 1 is minutes of the meeting held on the 30th of May 2024. I propose that the minutes of the meeting held on the 30th of May 2024 are taken as read, confirmed, and signed. Everybody agreed? Thank you. I'll just add one little note to those, if I may. At the end of the last DCRB, Mr. Charlesworth indicated he was going to contact Sport England. He did. He has had a response, and that's been fed through to the senior officers. So thank you, Mr. Charlesworth, for that. Agenda item 2 is question time. I have not received any questions from the public. Agenda item 3 is questions asked by members under Standing Order 7/3 and 7/5. I've not received any questions from members. Agenda item 4 is to advise of any other items which the chairman has decided to take as urgent elsewhere on the agenda. There are no urgent items. Agenda item 5 is declarations of interest in respect of items on the agenda. It is noted that all members who are also members of a parish, town or district council liaison committee will have personal interest in those applications which relate to areas covered by those authorities. Are there any other interests to declare, please? None. Thank you, members. So agenda item 6 is presentation of petitions under Standing Order 35. I have not received any petitions. So we move straight on to the reports of the Chief Executive on planning applications, county matter applications. Agenda item 7, Waving Limited, variation of condition 3, phase 1 of application 2022 BOCM with suffix clay storage facility extension of time to complete restoration, with final restoration to be completed by the 31st of March 2026. Donington Island, Spring Cottage Road, Ashby Wards, Blackford B. Atif Ishak will be presenting this report, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, item 7, variation condition 3, phase 1 of the application, clay storage facility extension of time to complete restoration, with final restoration to be completed 31st of March 2026 now. The site before you, phase 1 to the north, phase 2 to the south. Phase 1 area, there's no mining or storage of clay currently, and that's the under discussion as part of this application. This was the semi-indicative and approved plan completed for phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 being in the blue outline, if you can see that north, the layout of detailing of the pond, the lake, and the planting and woodland area. The other south area is at concept stage, still storage of clay in those areas. Closer view of that site. The reason for extension of time for the additional year phasing is largely due to site having been waterlogged and have been unsafe. A lot of quarry sites and other places have been in a similar situation. Approximately 280,000 cubic of clay profiling works could not be completed. The lack of availability of topsoil and subsoil for restoration, and an alternative hydroseeding method as a revised method of to achieve the best prospects of success on site. The optimum time for hydroseeding areas spread, having regard for weather conditions prevailing at the time. Once grass swathes are established, tree planting would be carried out for optimal success. Full landscaping scheme to be completed end of planting period 2025 to 2026. Approximate, as a scale and the context of the site, approximate 8 hectares within phase 1 that will require hydroseeding for creation of grasslands and trees to follow. Approximate 4,800 trees to be planted between November and March, or native species. Details of those planting schemes have been already been approved in an earlier discharge condition. As a reassurance from the site operators we've interrogated, we've got a timeline and a detailing of the restoration planting and schemes underway. Weather's been fairly good in the last month or so, and I'll demonstrate how they've moved ahead of time in terms of clearing the site. April this year, when we visited, you can see there was a large pool of water, pumps on site, a large surface area due to clay been inaccessible for vehicles or safety for working practices either. July, literally last week, I visited the site. A lot of grading and contouring of the site have already begun. In terms of north of the site, you can see where previously we saw that lake and water retention had altered. In terms of east of the boundary, you can see there's a lot of planting, a lot of activity in terms of contouring and quite taking good opportunity of the weather conditions. To the southwest of the site, a large platform area for viewing. You can see some drainage contours being set out there, and this site you can see sort of grading access route, which will allow wheelchair access and accessibility for all. Give you a context across the site. And again, another view looking back to the northwest of the site and the northern boundary again. This gives you context of phase one. You can see phase two to the right hand side, which has got probably just make out there in terms of the mounds for the existing clays that's been pre-ordered and storage. In terms of east of the boundary, again, some context and some existing planting. We received a representation from one local in terms of the further delays in restoration. The site had previously been given extension of time earlier year, and the delivery restoration work to be completed. I've also received member Robert Ashburn's comments also about the works of site on site should start sooner. However, understand the issues faced and also appreciate its importance of delivery of good high quality restoration of the site. Planning policy context as standard, minerals and waste in terms of Northwest Leicestershire Local Plan, and also National Policy Framework, which particularly gives reference to high quality environment standards in terms of delivery restoration being key, that they're not devolved of poor restoration, rust or weather permitting details. In terms of, there have been no objections received from statutory consultees, notable ones that are received after the recommendation put forward at Ashby Wolds Town Council, Ecology Officer and likewise Local Flood Authority Officer commented no objections, no comments from Natural England. Yep, I put forward a recommendation for approval subject to Section 1 agreement, which will cover the amenity impacts in terms of land transfers ultimately to National Forest and aftercare management. Thank you.
Thank you, Atif. Just before I open it up to members, Mr. Ashman, are you online?
Yes, I am. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, we've got you. Thank you, Mr. Ashman. You will have 5 minutes and Ewan will give you a 30-second notice. So the floor is yours.
Okay, well, it's a very short, really just what I want to say is very short, is that, as I stated earlier on, obviously I was disappointed that there has been so much slippage, but I do fully understand the reasons why, and I think they were explained fully in that. And I did actually raise this. This was raised at Ashby Wolds Town Council on Monday, where they said that, you know, they had similar views, but they agreed and supported the proposal. I think the most important thing is getting a high quality, decent restoration rather than speed, although it is very encouraging to see that the officers have got a clear timeline from Wavin to make sure that they, and I'm sure that we will keep pressure on them to make sure that they actually do deliver in time. What's being delivered on the other side of the road is of a good quality, but I do appreciate the amount of time that this takes to come online. So I fully support what they're doing. I hope that we will restore it to a very good quality, and that it will form part of the restoration of that part of Ashby Wolds and Forest and Measham division right next to the National Forest, and will continue to increase the number of tourists coming into the area, which is starting to see a big increase and having a positive impact on the economy. So although I'm disappointed at the slippage, I fully understand it, and I do support fully the scheme, and I think it looks very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ashman. I think the visuals that we've seen certainly indicate it will be a stunning environment once it's complete and mature. And in to your question about a quality development, the planning officers are busily nodding their head in agreement with you. So, members, I open the floor up to you. Mr. Coxon.
Thank you, Chairman. I think Councillor Ashman actually summed it up, the feeling out there. I mean, I know this site quite well, and it's been to this board quite a few times over the years, Chairman, and I think, as Robert said, to get a quality restoration, we are better off to allow them to take this extra time and complete the site, Chairman. So I'll move that we give them the permission, Chairman, to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Coxon. Your proposal is noted. Mr. Bannister.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to endorse everything that Mr. Ashman has said. I do have a question, and that is, how confident are the applicants in being able to meet the timescales for the extension? I wouldn't want to really be back here in another 18 months' time having to consider yet another delay in this matter.
Atif.
Thank you, Chairman. I think where we are currently, timeline has been that the restoration, the concept plan with National Forest was something that held up, I think, going back 2 years. And last year we approved the conditions with the concept for phase 1 being as final scheme and concept for phase 2. To date, and I've had reassurances and written details, £500,000 been allocated to it. They would have liked to have been on site. They had council contractors on site last year. It wasn't unsafe. You couldn't move the vehicles, being clay and the site being logged. I think it is something my senior mentioned earlier this morning. A lot of other sites are in a similar situation where restorations have been similar delay, where they're permitting. I think that's the key here. But they're committed to take the opportunity in the window right to get the seeding right so the ground can hold itself back before the planting of the trees that can take root and be successful. I think that's the key here. Money doesn't want to be wasted, nor time, but they're very committed. I've seen some of the invoices and some of the schedules before you, but it's in the hands of the gods, as they say. But I think ultimately they're committed and they want to see the delivery of that.
Thank you, Steve. Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I feel quite content. My colleague's question has been answered fully. I'm not sure what else you could ever do other than give solid assurances with the backing and understanding of A, B, C, this is how we've resourced it and everything else. So I'm more than happy to second that was put forward, the proposal of acceptance of the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Any further questions from members? Okay, so we have a proposer, we have a seconder. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, members. So we will now move on to agenda item 8, which is Leicestershire County Council. Change of use from a domestic dwelling use class C3 to use class C2. Children's Home, 149 Mount Sorrel Lane, Rothley. Robert Tollyfield, as officer, will present this report. Robert, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, so the proposal we
need to get the right slide up.
Yep, so the proposal we have here is a change of use of a residential dwelling use class C3 to a children's home, which is use class C2 at 149 Mount Sorrel Lane in Rothley. The property itself is a detached bungalow located on the eastern side of Mount Sorrel Lane at the northern edge of Rothley. The property has been recently renovated prior to being put on the market, as you can see from the site photos here, showing the front of the property, the rear of the property, the northern boundary, which sits adjacent to a public park associated with the recent housing development to the east of the site, and then we have the rear garden. So the proposal itself is to change the property from a residential dwelling to a care home for children, and it will accommodate up to 3 children at any one time, with a member of staff, and there will be a member of staff on site 24/7. The ground floor will accommodate 3 bedrooms plus a living area and bathroom facilities, with the upstairs attic being converted into a staff office or manager's office, again with amenities there for them. No external alterations or extensions are proposed for the dwelling. It is simply the change of use with no external changes. And the change of use of the property does allow for children in need of care, for that care to be provided with them in accordance with the County Council's Children and Family Services developmental plan from 2024 to 26. Is considered the application doesn't raise any amenity concerns to neighbouring properties in terms of overlooking, overshadowing or loss of privacy, given that there's no changes proposed. The application was advertised by means of site notice, press notice and notification letters sent to neighbouring properties. Objections were received to the council on the basis of the location being inappropriate for the proposed development. Concerns were raised over highway safety and parking issues, because I think there's approximately 3 cars can park on the drive, and concerns were raised about that and accessing Mount Sorrel Lane itself. There were concerns raised over a fear of crime and concerns over noise and disturbance from the proposed residents on site. It is considered that these issues are, in planning terms, no worse than the normal residential occupation of the dwelling if it was sold in the private market and was occupied as a C3 dwelling. Statutory consultees were notified of the application and no objections were raised by them, subject to appropriate planning conditions. And so in the officer recommendation is to permit the application subject to planning conditions.
Okay, thank you, Robert. We do have the applicant, Nikki Collins. Are you online, Nick? Oh, you're here. So Nikki is the Strategic Lead for Transformation, Commissioning and Planning here at the Leicestershire County Council. Nikki, welcome. You have 5 minutes and Ewan will give you a 30-second notice. Thank you.
Leicestershire County Council has 557 children who receive a short break. Of these, 34 have such complex needs arising from their disability that they and their parents or carers need what is called an overnight short break. A short break is a way for parents or carers to have a break from caring responsibilities for children with disabilities, to recharge their batteries, spend time with others, or pursue a particular interest. A short break also allows for a child or a young person to have a change of scenery, try different experiences, have fun, and make friends. The council intends to purchase the Rothley property to provide overnight or day short breaks for periods for up to 17 consecutive days for any eligible child, if a continued stay is necessary, and the total of short breaks in 1 year will not exceed 74 nights for every child. There may be times when the stay is unplanned on the same day, as we know that all families who have the added responsibility of meeting a child's need with his disability face additional unforeseen pressures. However, this will be subject to availability and matching to the staff and other children living in the home at the time. The children's care and safety is our ultimate concern. The aim is to create an environment of an ordinary family home. The children will be provided with fun activities, outings where appropriate, and will be supported to maintain their routine like attend school. The aim is to integrate them seamlessly into the community, so if there are community activities, the children will be encouraged to join these with adult support. The home and care of the children will be provided by Bernardo's. There will always be staff on site and with the children when they are in the community, as these children have disabilities and the home will be responsible for their safety. We hope that, like all children, there will be times when they will be seen and that they will be heard when they are outdoors and in the garden and in the community, like enjoying parks or going for a walk or shopping. The home will also have a manager who will oversee the running of the home and to ensure the children's needs are met. Other than this, it may be that the children have needs which require other professional visits, like a community nurse, who would undertake his or her duty just as they would if the child was living in their own home. Visitors to the home will be overseen by the staff and managers, as they will want to ensure the environment is one of homeliness and not one of an institution. The staff will be approachable in the event of a community member having a concern or wanting to discuss a matter. The home will also be regulated by Ofsted. This means that the home must keep to children's home regulations and quality standards. And when Ofsted visit the property, they will be looking for evidence that the children are thriving and that their needs are met. Even though the home will be run by Barnardo's, Leicestershire County Council maintain ultimate responsibility for these children, as agreed by their parents for the duration of the short break stay. I would now like to share a couple of pen pictures with you so that you can get to meet two of the children who will be enjoying the short break stay. These are real children, but not their real names. Marissa is aged 12 years old. She has autism, anxiety, and sensory processing disability needs. Marissa loves playing football and is a massive Leicester City Football Club fan. Sometimes she watches local football matches with her dad. Marissa also likes hobbies like bike riding, animals, especially dogs and guinea pigs. She attends Scouts as well. Marissa is a clever girl at school in achieving good outcomes in her SATs. Marissa does not like spiders or wasps. She does not like world flavors in her food. She does not like Chinese, Thai, Italian, or roast dinner. Marissa's sensory needs mean that she doesn't like very strong smells or loud noises. She can show her feelings by being unhappy and anxious through her behaviors. It is positive that Marissa has accepted that she needs help to understand her emotions and regulate these, and she works with professionals to help her do so. Kieran is 6 years old. Kieran has autism, and whilst he can say a few words, he struggles to communicate his needs, and he can become frustrated. Kieran has good comprehension of language and is learning Makaton in his new school. Kieran lives with his two brothers and his mum. Because his dad works away from home, he can't support at night as much as Kieran and his mum need. And Kieran has a lot of energy and needs to be occupied with structured and fun activities. Kieran likes creative art and stickers. He loves police cars and winter, and he loves to go snowboarding at Tamworth. And these are the children that we hope to support at this home.
Thank you, Nikki. If you just wait there for 1 moment, please. Are there any points of clarification from members for Nikki, please? No, thank you, Nikki. Thank you. Right, members, the floor is yours. Mr. Lovegrove.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm in support of the proposal. Just a question on policy or procedure from the County Council about the selection of properties. Buying a property is very expensive. It'll be a county asset. But when I saw the photo of it, it's been a recently renovated bungalow, and now we're going to be going in and making changes to what has just been worked upon. Are there any basic principles of property buying that the County Council goes to? Or would it be, I thought it might be Rob, sorry, Chairman.
No,
Sorry
right.
about that.
No, thank you, Mr. Lovegrove. Nikki, thank you for returning. I'm guessing you have quite a lot of insight into this particular question. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been doing this for 3 years. So I didn't feel specious about it in the beginning, but I do now. Every home is selected based on the purpose that we want the home to provide. So for these children, because we know they have disabilities, we had scoped this beforehand. We know that we have a gap in our current provision. We were targeting buying this provision for that very specific need. So we are looking at accessibility, the layout of the home, the size of the bedrooms. There are some issues that standard homes don't come with that we need to address. So for example, because these children might grab out a lot to stabilize themselves, we can't have shower pipes that are on the outside of the wall. They have to be embedded in the wall. And when you search for properties, most homes now have fancy piping outside, and they all look very pretty, but not very practical for children with disabilities. So there's a range of renovations we want to make to the home that are aligned to the children's needs, and that's the only reason.
Thank you, Nikki. Perhaps just stay there 1 more moment, Nikki. Any more questions from members before we move to a vote? Right, thank you, Nikki. Okay, members, over to you. Mr. Allen, Mr. Lovegrove?
Happy to second.
Members, we have a proposer, we have a seconder. May I take the vote? All those in favour? Thank you. That is unanimous. So we move on. Rob, you're still here, so that's good then. So agenda item 9 is Leicestershire County Council 2024-00120/03. Lots of other suffixes. It's a hybrid application for permission for the erection of 3 new B2, B8 oblique EG3 use class buildings and a further E brackets B drive-through unit, all parking and landscaping within the site, and ancillary office space provided within units A1 and B1. Outline permission for the erection of a second drive-through unit, use class E brackets B, Airfield Business Park, Leicester Road, Market Harbour. Robert, over to you, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, use class B2, B8 and EG3 covers storage and distribution, general industrial and office space, and use class EB is food and drink, just so I'm not confusing everybody every time I mention it. So this application relates to Airfield Business Park, which is located on the edge of Market Harbour. The application site itself is the eastern side of the business park, immediately adjacent to the B6047 Harbour Road, accessed via Wellington Way. To the south of the site is the Green Acres Traveller site. Members may remember that October last year, permission was granted for numerous units that fell within the storage, general industrial and office use class. And this application is an amendment to that scheme. So the proposal involves the erection of 3 larger units. Unit A1, Unit B1 will each have a single occupier, and units H1 to H7 are capable of accommodating 7 occupiers. To the north of the site is Unit D1, and that is the food and drink outlet, which will be a Costa Coffee drive-through. Unit D2, if you can see it there outlined in blue, is an outline permission for an additional drive-through unit under the same use class as the Costa Coffee. At the moment, that doesn't have any. There isn't really a proposal for how that's going to be used, so at the moment it is outline permission. You can see here this is a photo of the outside of the business park. You can see a Harbour Innovation Centre there on the right hand side. So Unit A1, which is the largest unit on site, will accommodate warehousing with ancillary office space over 6,310 metres squared. The building has a dual pitched roof with a maximum ridge height of 13.4 metres. Unit B1, which is the smallest of the units, occupying just over 1,200 square metres. Again, that is for storage and distribution with ancillary office space and a ridge height of 11.15 metres. Units H1 to H7 will occupy just over 2,200 square metres, and then they will have a ridge height of 9.9 metres. So to the very north of the site will be the Costa Coffee unit, 167 square metre unit with an overall height of 6.35 metres, and that will be of a material construction to match the standard Costa Coffee branding that is seen on units throughout the country, with cladding and panels with the Costa Coffee colour scheme. So the principal consideration of this application is that units D1 and D2 are not employment uses. Airfield Business Park itself is allocated as an employment use site in the Harbour Local Plan. Units D1 and D2 represent a departure from that, and they would also result in the loss of some office space on the site. These units also have another consideration, which is their impact upon the local centre of Market Harbour and the adjacent Harbour Strategic Development Area to the southwest, which is currently under development. Within the Harbour Local Plan, Policy RT2 does require the submission of a sequential test for a town centre use, which a coffee shop does represent. The applicant has submitted a sequential test which I identified 23 different sites within the local area, none of which were viable locations for the proposed development. Additionally, they had submitted information stating that the demand for office space on site has not materialised. We live in a post-COVID world with more working from home, so there just isn't enough demand for office space on site. And so as part of the assessment, the application is considered that these the food and drink uses on site would bring some employment, as well as offering a supportive use to ensure the vitality and viability of the business park itself. A further consideration is the heights of the buildings, particularly units A1 and B1. Policy GD8 of Harborough's local plan puts a limit of 10 metres on building heights within the Airfield Business Park. At the previous application, there was a unit that did exceed that, but that was considered to be acceptable in that instance, and Harborough District Council did not raise a policy objection based on that. And in this instance, they've not raised an objection to the heights of the units, either subject to an appropriate landscaping scheme being submitted, which can mitigate some of the visual impact of these new units. One has been submitted, and it will limit some of the visual effects that it does have. The Costa Coffee unit itself has been rotated through approximately 45 degrees, just to, again, limit its visual impact with their less massing facing towards the highway, and part of it being screened by existing or by proposed landscaping. As such, these issues that have been raised are considered acceptable. So in summary, we're proposing three buildings to cover storage, general industrial and office use, the erection of a food and drink use drive-through unit without further outline permission for an additional unit. This does allow for an amendment to the previous approved scheme, and I understand this also helps to accommodate the proposed tenants on site. Whilst units D1 and D2 are contrary to the local plan, sufficient evidence has been submitted and considered acceptable enough for us to, in this instance, make a departure from policy. Statutory consultees have not raised any objections in terms of the development's impact on the local highway network or the local water network. The drainage scheme has been submitted, and it's been demonstrated that the local drainage network can accommodate the additional flows from the site. The landscaping scheme provides enough mitigation against the visual impact of the taller buildings. Development itself doesn't raise any amenity concerns to neighbour properties in terms of noise disturbance or loss of amenity, particularly to the traveller site to the south. A noise survey was submitted and found that there wouldn't be any significantly detrimental noise to there. The application was advertised by press notice, site notice and neighbour letters. We did receive one objection from neighbours regarding the increase in traffic on the highway network, which highways have looked at it and they do not have raised any objections subject to appropriate conditions. Another comment was a concern over an increase in litter from the Costa Coffee unit, and to address that, a litter management plan will be required to be submitted prior to the occupation of the Costa Coffee unit. And so taking all that into consideration, the recommendation is to permit the application subject to conditions.
Okay, thank you, Robert. There are no speakers, so I open the floor to the members. Any questions, queries? Mr. Bannister?
Yes, I've got a question. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the report. You did mention that the drive-through unit is an exception to the Harbour District Council local plan. They didn't particularly raise an objection other than to ask for a sequential test to be undertaken, which was undertaken. My question is, presumably the results of that test were referred back to HDC. Did they have any further comment to make after seeing the result of that test?
No, they read the sequential test and they were happy with the conclusions it reached.
Thank you, Mr. Grimley.
I think it's a bit of a shame about the loss of office area there, but I understand sort of the reasons. I think I agree that a hot food facility does need to be put there because it is very sort of sparse and is sort of needed there. So it's just those comments about the office area. I do understand the reasons. Apart from that, I'll propose officer's recommendation for this.
Thank you. Julie just wants to say something before Mr. Allen.
Yes, I just wanted to remind members that a similar situation arose at Leaders Farm where consent was granted for a drive-through takeaway, and that permission was granted by Harbour District themselves. So Harbour District have also had a situation where they've approved something contrary to policy in theory.
Mr. Allen.
Thank you very much, Chair. Probably more of an observation than a question, but welcome that there is the provision of sort of food service on site, which from a sustainability point of view is probably better than employees on site trying to drive off somewhere else for lunches, or a proliferation of, shall we say, unregulated outlets on site. Happy to second the proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. So any other questions from the floor? So my only observation is I've been familiar with Airfield Park for quite a while now. And the original concept, and Mr. Bannister may be able to help me here, is probably 15 to 20 years old from when Airfield Park was designated as a commercial development area with the Innovation Centre. And from what I recall, it was always designed to be demand-led as far as the expansion units and the future builds. And I think that is what we're now seeing, is just that concept of 20 years ago is now different post-COVID. The demand for commercial units is different. The demand for office space is different. The demand for warehousing is different. And I think as a responsible authority, I think we need to be able to adapt our policies and procedures and technical positions to be able to deliver what the market is demanding. So we have a proposer, we have a seconder. May I take the vote, please? That's unanimous again. So the application 2024-001-20-035, put my specs on, 3, is approved. Thank you, Robert. So members, we move on to agenda item 10, which is varying the Leicestershire County Council Tree Preservation Order, pages 79 to 84. Jason Peach, Leicestershire County Council Tree Officer, will present this report. Over to you, Jason.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of the report is to inform the board that we wish to carry out, excuse me, a review of the Leicestershire County Council's tree preservation orders. Since the majority of the orders were made between the years of 1949 to 1974, with the latest in 1981, some of the sites have seen significant changes due to development or a change of use in the land. This now means that some of the orders and the relevant maps do not match what is now in existence. The process is to carry out a desktop assessment of the sites by district and to categorise them as high, medium or low priority for an on-site assessment and to review the TPO as necessary. This process is in line with the current planning practice guidance of March 2014 that authorities keep their tree preservation orders under review to ensure that they are protected and still merit that the orders contain the appropriate classifications. The work will be completed during the normal working roles of the tree officer, the admin team and the legal team. So pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jason. Any points of clarification, questions from members? Lots of us here are double hatters, so. Right. The report, I believe, is just to be noted. Yeah, we're just noting it, so thank you, members. We move on to agenda item 11, is delegated planning decision scheduled 22nd of March to 2024 to June 2024. The report is to note. Are there any questions? No, thank you very much. Agenda item 12 is delegated enforcement notice issued on the 22nd of March to the 30th of June 2024. I find the one that is listed is quite interesting. Are there any questions from members? Right, the report is noted. Thank you. Agenda item 13 are any other items which the chairman has decided to take as urgent. As I said before, there are no urgent items. And agenda item 14 is the chairman's announcement. Just before I confirm the next meeting of the board, just for members' information and any member of the public who is listening, this board made a representation to children and families regarding Hastings School. We received, I believe, a very encouraging response from the department, but I think what it does do is we, as a public-facing board, we make and will always make some very difficult decisions on behalf of planning authorities and planning applicants. And the majority of those planning applications are based on technical state issues, technical policies. But I think it's really encouraging when we as the DCRB can actually write back to the applicant and say, okay, the grounds to approve it we agree with, but we have these concerns and those concerns we'll listen to. So I think that is positive and it's great for transparency. So to conclude the meeting then, members, the only announcement I otherwise have to make is the next meeting of this board is on the 22nd of August 2024 at 2 p.m. And now I'll draw this meeting to a close at 14:41. Thank you, members. Have a safe trip back. Thank you, officers.